The line at the grocery store was moving slowly, customers shuffling forward with their carts, some lost in thought, others checking their phones. Among them was James, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a neatly trimmed beard, unloading a modest selection of groceries onto the conveyor belt. A few canned goods, some fresh vegetables, and a loaf of bread. Nothing extravagant, just the basics. He gave a polite nod to the young cashier as she began scanning his items, her fingers moving quickly over the keypad. Her name was Emily. She had been working at this small-town grocery store for nearly 2 years, saving every penny she could to help pay for college. She wasn't just a cashier. She was someone who cared about the people who came through her line, someone who noticed the little things, like the tired eyes of a single mom counting every dollar before checkout, or the elderly man who came in every morning just to buy a newspaper and chat for a while. As Emily scanned the last item and read out the total, James reached into his pocket for his card. He swiped once. The machine beeped, flashing a red decline message. He frowned and tried again. The same response. He chuckled awkwardly, shaking his head. That's strange. Maybe I used the wrong card. He pulled out another one and swiped. Another beep, another decline. The line behind him grew impatient. A few customers sighed. Some shifted uncomfortably, trying not to stare. James felt the weight of their eyes on him, his face growing warm. He knew he had money in his account, or at least he thought he did. He checked his wallet for cash, but found only a few crumpled bills. Not nearly enough to cover the groceries. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice lower now, almost embarrassed. I don't know what's going on. Emily could see the frustration in his face, the quiet panic that he was trying to hide. She had seen this before. Someone struggling, caught off guard by an unexpected financial issue. And she knew that feeling all too well. She had been there herself, standing in a checkout line, praying her card would go through. Without hesitating, she made a decision. Before James could say anything else, she reached under the counter, pulled out her own debit card, and swiped it through the machine. A soft beep, a green light, and just like that, the transaction was complete. James looked at her, stunned. Wait, what did you just do? Emily gave him a small smile and shrugged. It's okay. Just pay it forward when you can. For a moment, he just stood there, struggling to find the right words. The customers behind him had moved on, more concerned with their own business. But James? He wasn't going to forget this. He wasn't going to let this moment pass, like just another act of kindness from a stranger. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. Emily had no idea who she had just helped, no idea who he really was, and he wasn't about to tell her. Not yet. What happened next would change everything. James walked out of the grocery store, the weight of the encounter lingering in his mind. The kindness Emily had shown him wasn't something he saw every day, especially from someone who didn't know his situation. Most people wouldn't have even noticed, let alone stepped in to help. As he placed the bags in the back seat of his car, he glanced back through the store's glass doors. Emily had already moved on, scanning groceries for the next customer. Like what she had just done was no big deal, but to him, it was. Driving home, James couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this moment than just a simple act of generosity. It wasn't about the money. He could have easily paid for the groceries 100 times over if he had used the right card. It was the fact that someone, without hesitation, had helped him when they had no reason to. And now he had an overwhelming urge to know more about her. That night, James sat in his home office, scrolling through local news articles. His wealth wasn't something he flaunted. In fact, Most people wouldn't recognize him as the self-made millionaire he was. He had built his fortune through years of hard work, smart investments, and a few risks that paid off big. But that success had also come with a certain detachment from people. The more money he made, the fewer real connections he had. Emily's kindness reminded him of a time before all that, a time when he wasn't surrounded by people who only saw him for his wealth, a time when he was struggling, just like she probably was. The next day, he returned to the grocery store, hoping to see her again. He waited in line at her register, watching as she greeted each customer with the same warmth and patience she had shown him. When it was finally his turn, she smiled. "Hey, you're back," she said, scanning his items. James nodded. "Yeah, I figured. I owed you a proper thank you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bill, sliding it across the counter. "This is for what you did yesterday, and more." Emily looked down at the money, her eyes widening when she realized it was a $100 bill. She hesitated, then shook her head. "I can't take this." "Why not?" James asked, genuinely curious. "It just doesn't feel right," she admitted. "I didn't do it expecting anything in return." James was taken aback. Most people would have taken the money without a second thought. But Emily, she was different, and that only made him want to help her more. Over the next few days, James made it a habit to stop by the store. He wasn't just there to shop. He was observing, learning. He watched as Emily juggled long shifts with exhaustion in her eyes, but never lost her kindness. He overheard bits and pieces of conversations she had with co-workers, mentioning student loans, rent, and how she was struggling to keep up. One evening, he sat in his car outside the store, deep in thought. He had the resources to change her life completely. But how could he do it without making her feel like a charity case? How could he give back in a way that honored her kindness, instead of making it seem like a reward? Then an idea came to him. James owned several businesses, and one of them was a scholarship foundation that helped students in need. It was something he had started years ago, a way to give others the opportunities he wished he had when he was younger. If Emily was working this hard just to afford school, why not help her the right way? The next day, he walked into the store, a plan in place. This time, he wasn't just another customer. He was about to change Emily's life. She just didn't know it yet, but there was still one question left unanswered. Would she accept his help? James stepped inside the grocery store, his heart beating a little faster than usual. He had faced boardrooms full of powerful executives, made million-dollar deals, and handled high-stakes negotiations. But this moment felt different. This wasn't about business. It was personal. Emily was at her usual spot behind the register, ringing up customers with her familiar warm smile. As James approached, she recognized him immediately and gave him a small amused look. "Back again," she teased. He chuckled. "What can I say? The service here is top-notch." As she scanned his items, he hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. "Emily, I've been thinking a lot about what you did for me that day. You didn't have to, but you did. And I know you didn't want anything in return, but I want to help you." Emily glanced up, slightly confused. "Help me?" James took a deep breath. "I know you're working hard to put yourself through school, and I happen to run a scholarship foundation. I'd like to offer you one. Full tuition, no strings attached." Emily froze, the scanner still in her hand. For a moment, it was like the entire store faded into the background. "Wait, what?" "It's real," James assured her. "I looked into your situation, and I know you deserve it. You've spent so much time helping others. It's about time someone helped you." Emily opened her mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find the right words. She was always the one giving, Never the one receiving, and now a complete stranger, someone she had helped without a second thought, was offering to change her entire future. But why? She finally asked. James smiled. Because you reminded me what real kindness looks like. I've spent years surrounded by people who only cared about money. But you did something for me without even knowing who I was. That kind of generosity is rare. And I want to make sure you get the chance to do everything you dream of. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away, shaking her head in disbelief. This doesn't feel real? It is, James said, and all you have to do is say yes. She let out a shaky laugh, still overwhelmed. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, James said simply. The moment hung between them, heavy with emotion. Then finally, Emily nodded. Okay, she whispered. Yes, James grinned. Good, because I wasn't going to take no for an answer. As he walked out of the store, he glanced back one last time. Emily was still standing there, hands over her mouth, trying to process everything. And in that moment, James knew this wasn't just about money. This was about changing someone's life the way she had changed his. In the simplest, yet most profound way, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had done something truly meaningful.